Here's how I used to draw. Here's what I showed in a recent video. And then here's what I'm doing now. Spot the difference? Let me show you what it is, why I think it's so important if you want a faster and more consistent draw. And at the end of the video, we're gonna head to the range and find out just how fast I am. Imagine you're at the range with your friends. You've been practicing a lot lately and you're excited to show off just what you can do. Their minds are going to explode. It's your turn to run the cold start drill, El Presidente. Channeling your inner mil-spec mojo, you await the beep of the timer, completely unaware of the disaster waiting to happen. You see, you wore a longer shirt that day, and it's ready and waiting to snag your gun as you draw and send it flying from your hands. But that didn't happen because you made this adjustment. How's it going? I'm Peter Ildefonso, and today we are talking about your support hand and its role in drawing from concealment. So that would be this hand and not this hand. Now, your support hand's primary job is garment clearing, which is getting your shirt out of the way so you can access your gun. But that's not all it's doing, and it was very helpful for me to think about there being more to it than simply grabbing my shirt. And if you're not already thinking about your support hand role like this, I do think this will improve your draw. A few months ago, I did a video where I touched on this topic, and I immediately got a bunch of responses from people, all solid shooters, correcting or at least adding to what I was saying. So I wanted to make another video where I shared what they told me with you, and then just take the opportunity to go a little bit deeper into the topic. So here's how I used to grab my shirt. Pinching my shirt between the gun and magazine if you have that type of holster setup. If not, just pinching right next to the gun. And this worked just fine, but there were three main things that I had problems with this. Maybe it was just me, but not the method, but I had problems with this. One is I would oftentimes, because I would then have to raise up so high, I would oftentimes either grab my shirt between my hand and my pistol, which was problematic, or snag my gun or thumb on the inside of my shirt, which is also problematic. I'd also have the problem of if I was wearing like a hoodie with a lot more material in front, you know, like a pocket in front, it would be difficult to pinch all of that material. And lastly, and kind of the biggest problem for me was because that's more of a finer movement to pinch, I was never very aggressive. And at this time, I wasn't at all thinking about my support hand doing anything else but grabbing my shirt and moving out of the way. And that was a problem for me. This is what I showed in that recent video. Here, I'm just slapping my hand onto my stomach and grabbing a fistful of shirt so that I can then draw. And this method was working great for me, but it needed one tiny adjustment, and that's what everyone pointed out to me. And here's what I'm doing now. Take the previous method of bringing your hand onto your stomach and making a fist, but instead of doing it this way, and maybe I'm just an idiot and didn't understand this to begin with, but instead of doing it this way, bring your hand down like this so that when you make a fist, you're bringing your shirt up significantly higher and you barely have to raise your arm when you draw. This was really helpful for me because some shirts, such as this one, are a good bit longer. You can see how far this hem comes down. And so when I would wear a shirt like this and do this method or the pinching method, I would oftentimes snag on my shirt or catch my shirt between my hand and my gun, and that's obviously no bueno. So doing this way made it significantly more consistent for me across different shirt types. The fewer variables, the better, and the larger room for error, the better. Now, why is garment clearing so important, and what else should your support hand be doing besides just grabbing your shirt? What else should be on your mind? Besides the obvious of not wanting to catch your shirt on your gun or your gun on your shirt, which by the way happens to even experienced shooters, let me answer those questions with three thoughts that I've had that have radically changed the way that I approach drawing from concealment. Firstly, moving your hand to grab your shirt is what initiates the movement of the draw. So your draw is made up a bunch of techniques and things that have to happen for you to be able to go from your gun being hidden to your gun presented, obviously. And bringing your hand onto your shirt is the first step. Now, it's a lot more than that. It's what you should also be thinking about, focusing in on just that one thing to start the movement and then let everything else follow along sequentially. Second thing, because it initiates the movement, it also sets the pace for how fast and aggressive the rest of your draw is. The more aggressively you come onto your shirt with your support hand, the more aggressively your strong hand is going to come onto the gun, and thus the more aggressively you're going to present the gun and get your sights onto target. Now, you might ask, how aggressive is too aggressive? I don't recommend wearing your favorite shirt when you're dry firing. Thirdly, garment clearing is the only thing that separates a concealed carry draw from a not concealed carry draw, drawing from an outside waistband holster, whether it be, on your hip, on your belt, competition setup, or battle belt setup. Those two draws are pretty much the same except for the garment clearing. So getting that one differentiating factor under your fingers ensures that you can practice both independently without being like, oh shoot, I was just practicing with a competition belt setup and now suddenly I'm concealed carrying and having a problem. That's not an issue, but working on this specifically helps that to not be an issue. Now, what's that saying? Talk is cheap, but ammo's expensive. Let's put my money where my mouth is, head to the range, and burn through some rounds.
So this is how we end up. Shades of blue and gray. I feel just like an empty bottle. My dreams are on delay. I just wanna climb on top of a hill and throw it all away, away. Take me far away before my mind spins off and I am all derailed, derailed. Just drive all the way to the rainbow's end. Just drive, and we'll never turn our backs again.
All right, so I'm done dry firing. I'm about warmed up as I'm gonna get. It's freezing out here though, so my hands are super cold, but I'm gonna grab some ammo and then actually do this live and see how things are going. It's a lot colder than I expected it would be. Everything gets so much harder when your hands are cold. Coffee makes everything better. 108. Accidental headshot. 109. Low Charlie. 0.98 Alpha. That felt better. I'm editing through this and I'm noticing a couple of things off script here as I'm just watching back through the footage, and I wanted to point those out. But firstly, also, I tried to do my best to select shots. I was filming on the range for probably 45 minutes, and I just wanted to select the shots that kind of represented accurately all of the mistakes, errors, and then successes throughout the course of it. There's a lot more misses and a lot more hits as well, but just choosing those that showed the grand scheme of an entire range session. It's crazy how different though live fire, this is why coming to the range and testing live fire with live fire is so important and not just dry firing, because it's definitely differently. I'm pushing 0.8 pretty consistently at home dry, and coming to the range, part of it's my hands are cold, but you just also get more hung up because you know you have live ammo. It's not the same, that's for sure. 2 rounds, 2 more draws, let's see. One thing that I started to pick up only from the footage and that I didn't notice earlier was that I was actually pulling shots oftentimes and pulling the trigger too soon before I can tell that the gun is actually up to my sights. And sometimes that's acceptable, but in this case, I was wanting to be a little bit more deliberate with my shots, if you will. And so that's something that I need to work on and not just try to beat that time or try to go fast, and as a result, be pulling the trigger prematurely. I also just noticed I was really struggling with this particular hoodie. The material is just particularly slippery, and because of that, I'm focusing so much on simply getting a good grip on my hoodie, I should say. And it's hard to think about building a good grip on a gun when I'm actually getting to that stage. 0.86, that was really bad support hand. And that's why singles are rough, because you can definitely just pull out and get the shot off without it being set up well. But that's what we're focusing on, is aggression on garment clearing right now. So I wanted to sit down for a second and kind of reflect on my shooting and think through the homework points that I pulled from that. And to condense for time's sake, the biggest thing that I noticed was that when I'm trying to draw fast and focusing on just being as fast and aggressive as I can, a lot of my other techniques will start to fall by the wayside. The biggest one for me is that I might get my first shot off relatively fast, like under a second or something like that. But oftentimes I'm doing so at the sacrifice of a good and solid support hand grip on the gun. Sometimes my sight picture is not the best and I'm getting A-zone hits even purely because I have, good presentation. But what I need to now go home and, well, I am home, it's too cold to film on the range anymore. But what I need to now do for homework is continuing to draw at speed, make corrections at speed, but continuing to work on that draw and try to focus in on, okay, now I'm keeping my support hand and building that support hand grip and keeping it strong, even when I'm trying to push speed. And even when I'm trying to push speed, I'm still getting a really, really good sight picture. And even when I'm pushing speed, I'm still controlling my trigger press. So keeping things under control at speed is probably the number one thing that I need to be focusing on right now. Specifically, building my support hand grip. That was what was failing me the most, was building my support hand grip well. If you found this video helpful, then please hit that subscribe button so I can be more consistent in getting content out for you. Check out my other videos as well, and as always, be civil, stay savage, and I'll see you in the next one.